Army of the Dead, brand new movie on Netflix that was directed by Zack Snyder. And Zack Snyder did more than just direct, he also wrote the movie as well. And for people who are probably wondering, no, the movie is not a sequel to Dawn of the Dead. Army of the Dead is its own movie, its own timeline, its own universe, its own thing. And I guess he explained it to be almost like a spiritual successor to Dawn of the Dead. Now I'm gonna give my non-professional review of this film. And I'm just going to talk about it a little bit and give my thoughts, what I thought of it. So like usual, I don't usually give my rating at the beginning of a review video, I wait till the end. So let's just start right off the bat and look at the rating for this movie on Metascore and IMDb. So on IMDb, it is sitting at a 5.9 out of 10. And interestingly enough about that, I'm looking at this on my computer and it has a 5.9 out of 10, but when I go on my phone and go on IMDb there, for some reason it says 6.3 out of 10. I don't know why, I'm not exactly sure. Let's just round it off and say it's sitting at a 6 out of 10, okay? And then on Metascore, it's sitting at a 57 out of 100. So very mixed responses, very mixed feelings, very mixed viewpoints on this film. Keep in mind, a lot of this movie is pretty fresh in my head because I just finished watching this like an hour ago. I can say I'm feeling that. I'm feeling that rating, and I'm with it. I'm down with it. I can tell you right now, this is the second worst rated Zack Snyder film on my list of Zack Snyder films. Usually I actually really like his movies such as Man of Steel, Batman vs Superman, The Snyder Cut, 300, but this one had its moments, but overall it does feel like it's just a movie to simply just be a movie. The worst rated Zack Snyder movie I have for myself is Sucker Punch, just like a lot of people I think have as well. I have that movie sitting at a 5 out of 10, but if I were to watch it today, I think it would be a lot lower than a 5 out of 10. So getting into the Army of the Dead, I think the biggest issue with it is character development, and trust me, you watch these trailers, you look at some of the posters, and you're thinking to yourself, come on Ty, what are you talking about character development? This is all about shooting zombies in the head. And yeah, you're right. But weirdly enough, for a 2.5-hour film that is all about shooting zombies in the head and explosions and crazy action, there really isn't all that much action. And hold up for people who've watched it. Before you attack me and say, what are you talking about, stupid? There is action. Yeah, there is. And there's a lot more action in this film than other action films might have. But the thing is I think when a lot of us went into this movie watching it, especially the trailers that we were shown, Army of the Dead looked like it was going to be 2 hours and 30 minutes as a film, but 2 hours of that 2:30 was going to be pure action. And when you watch it, it's actually not like that at all. There's a lot less action than you would probably think. So considering that factor, I'm like, okay, then there has to be some character development. And there was, in a way, but I do come out of the movie not really caring about any of them. And especially too, spoiler alert, if you do want to watch this movie, do not go past beyond this point, especially since all the characters, or at least every single one of them except for one, end up dying at the end of the movie, including Dave Bautista, who's the main character. With everyone dying at the end of the movie, I just kind of felt blah at the end of it. It felt lacking, especially too when I came into this movie seeing some familiar actors and actresses, you know, thinking like, oh, like they look cool or, you know, whatever. And then as the movie goes on, not only is their character not really developed all that much, but they just end up dying. It's like, oh, all right, throwaway. Now, like I said, Tyrell, stop being an idiot. This isn't about character development. And you're right. Okay, so then what is this movie about? Well, essentially Las Vegas gets hit by a zombie outbreak, and Las Vegas becomes like this massive quarantine zone, and they set up a huge walled barricade around Las Vegas to keep the infected in and everyone else outside of it. Basically, the beginning of this movie shows a bunch of the main characters throughout the film surviving the Las Vegas outbreak and also trying to save family family and people who are stranded in Las Vegas, until one day they seem to have all parted ways, got jobs in their normal lives, and basically have forgotten about the whole Las Vegas incident to begin with. Until one day this character Bly Tanaka, who's played by actor Hiroyuki Sanada, great actor by the way, but he approaches Dave Bautista's character to essentially say, there's $2 million underneath this casino in a highly secured bank vault, and if you go in and grab the money, that's yours. And Dave Bautista obviously has to think about this proposition, and he obviously says yes. So then he gathers up this team to essentially infiltrate the Las Vegas quarantine zone, get into the casino, break open the vault, escape with the money, and then, oh boom, you're rich. Very typical and generic bank heist that you could see in almost any other type of bank heist film. And see, as I've already mentioned, how many of these characters end up getting killed by the end of this movie. And it's interesting what I mentioned about character development, because often the characters who die, it's not until a couple minutes before their death you learn about some of their backstory, or how they feel about certain characters, or you just learn about them in general only a couple minutes before they end up getting killed. And then you end up sitting there being like, what was the point? For example, Ana Reguera's role as Maria Cruz. She's super close friends with Dave Bautista, and they seem to have this really close-knit connection to one another. And it's not until a minute before she dies you find out that she's wanted to be with him and he's wanted to be with her, but there was never a right time, and then she gets her neck snapped. And you know, maybe I'm being picky for a movie that isn't supposed to cater off of that, but I'm just saying, if you weren't going to make character development earlier in the movie, why make character development for a character for only 1 minute who's eventually just going to die after that quick minute? Okay, well, let me get into some of the good things, maybe the things I enjoyed, and I'll just start off with, you know, the women. Beautiful. Beautiful women in this movie. Couldn't have picked better. And you know, Zack Snyder has this way of casting in his movies. Usually he casts, I don't want to say unknowns, but people who just aren't as popular as other directors may do in their movies nowadays. He does give people the opportunity to star in movies that other directors maybe wouldn't. Dave Bautista is the main character. I'm happy with it. I think Dave Bautista is vastly underrated because there's this whole stigma about how he used to be in the WWE, but he's showed in his movie choices that he's more than that. But the thing about his character in this is you obviously know he is super talented, he's got crazy training, and he's like just a pure zombie killer. Essentially, he would be the best of the best in this group. And it's not really until near the end of the film, the last 45 minutes, where you actually get to see some really sick action scenes from him. I thought, like I said, this movie was gonna be filled with crazy action, but it's really just a lot of pointing and shooting, and it's not until the main act where you get to see what Dave Bautista's character is really made of. Now, you know, the special effects were good, and I'm not surprised. It's a Snyder film. Now, I will say about that though, sometimes when you see the zombies, some of the zombies don't look completely zombified. They kind of just look, you know, with pale white skin, different colored eyes, and they're just kind of acting like a zombie. For whoever was in prosthetic makeup, it could have been a little bit better. But you know, the explosions, the gunfire, the scenery, the CGI, most of it is pretty good. There's this awesome zombified tiger that you see a couple of times in the film, and he even has a moment where he just completely demolishes one of the characters. It was awesome. Now, let's talk about the zombies a little bit more though. So Zack Snyder created, obviously, a zombie outbreak in Las Vegas, but they're not just regular zombies who, obviously you shoot them in the brain, they're gonna die. But they're not just regular zombies that roam around, they run or they walk and they bite you and eat you and, you know, whatever. No, these zombies, and there are zombies like that in this movie, of course, but they're being led by like an alpha male, an alpha top dog. I don't know what they really called him. This zombie is smarter, he's faster, he's stronger, he's more intelligent. It's really interesting because he made these zombies almost like a hierarchy, kind of like they were following a king. He controlled his population. He was in charge. And it's really interesting that he made the zombies that way. I don't know exactly what his thought process and creation process of that idea really is. It's just interesting to say the least. You know, in the movie, he has a wife, I guess, and I guess she's pregnant, so I guess these zombies can reproduce. And then somewhere throughout the middle of the film, they end up killing the wife, and he takes the body back to their main base, and he like rips open her stomach and takes out like the little baby fetus. It was weird. I don't really know if I don't know. I wasn't like, yo, sick, this is dope. And I also wasn't like, what the hell is this stupid shit? I wasn't either. I'm very indifferent about it. I'm just kind of like, okay. And okay, in all fairness, I'd be lying if I said it didn't make me want to know a little bit more about this alpha male zombie king dude, because he even rides on a horse with like a cape and like this metal crown that he eventually ends up using over his head so that no bullets can shoot him in the head. And they are making a prequel show, I think by Zack Snyder as well, that will be on Netflix, so I'm sure we'll get our answers there. And also to just quickly pointing back to the action, I will say when the action is there, it's entertaining, it's fun to watch, it has its moments, but it just wasn't there enough. I gotta say, some of the death scenes in my opinion were kind of stupid, because it does seem in a lot of ways like they could have helped one another or saved one another, but instead of writing in potential points in the script where this character saves this character, they sacrifice that for entertaining cinematography and interesting death scenes instead of satisfying the story with these characters. That's something I really didn't end up liking out of the movie, out of everything. In a city infested with zombies, you can assume that when people look like they're dying, they're going to die. But what do you usually take from movies when you don't see someone completely die? When you don't see someone who completely dies, they're not dead. Or you should take it as if they're not dead. And there are a couple times in this movie where there are about maybe 2 or 3 people where they die. You don't really see them die, so I don't know. They're probably dead. This movie, it had its moments. There are times where it's enjoyable. I'm not saying I hated it. I'm not saying I loved it. Would I watch this movie again? No. No, probably not. Do I like Zack Snyder? I love Zack Snyder, but that doesn't mean I gotta like everything he does. You know what I'm saying? So that's why I am going to be giving this movie a 5 out of 10. Usually when I give movies a 5 out of 10, that means 50% of the movie was good and 50% wasn't. And it's very true in my opinion about this film. There's half of this movie that is good, and then there's another half that isn't, but had the potential to be good. I wasn't coming into this film thinking like, dude, this is gonna be a 9 out of 10. They might even crack 10. It might be an 11. But no, I didn't think that. I thought at most I was gonna maybe say, 6, 6.5, and it ended up being a little bit lower out of 5. And I will also even give this movie some credit as well. On Netflix, it is still top trending. A lot of people are talking about it. And in general, Zack Snyder is in the spotlight. That obviously has a lot to do with the Restore the Snyderverse for DC and whatnot. But I will give it credit for its trending purposes. If you guys have not seen Army of the Dead, bed, you got nothing to do one night, maybe pop it on, have a popcorn flick, enjoy it, see what you think of it yourself. But that is it for this one, guys. Make sure to leave a like and subscribe to keep up to date with everything I'm doing on the channel. If you do want to see more of my review videos, I will put the link into the description and right on the screen here right now. And as per usual, until next time everyone, I will talk to you all very soon.